Are we on? All right, Shalom.
So long.
First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh,
Howard,
Hashem, Yahweh
Hashem,
Shai,
Yahushua, Ba'atum, Pakadash.
double honors to the elders, the apostles of Great Millstone, blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect, news in the gospel of brother from the center of Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever they may be. We the brothers here, GMS Kansas City branch. Uh, just going into the little Hellenization of the Israelites and just whatever comes to the spirit, open forum basically, but really trying to focus on the Hellenistic period because you got this common concept among the Christians and Vocab Malone and these other Israelite, not the other Israelite groups, Salakia, but these other Christians that's been coming against how replacement theology is what we call it, but they come against how salvation is only for the Israelites because they like to use that no Jew nor Greek uh, uh, idiom, which they don't understand that the Greeks and the Jews are the same people. Okay, just one kept their identity versus the other one that was dispersed, which is through the diaspora, which means the Israelites were scattered among the nations. So it makes sense that they will lose their heritage or their identities living among the heathen, especially if we've been casted off for our sins, man. Okay, so they call it replacement theology. But see, the biggest part, what the Christians don't understand, is the Apocrypha. Okay, and when you get a King James Study Bible in particular, the King James Study Bible, you have what they call in between the testaments, and pretty much Esau really tells on himself because the scholars know that the Gentiles of the New Testament are Israelites. They know that because if they didn't know that, they wouldn't incorporate it into the King James Bible in between the testaments. Because looking at it now, they even tell you, and I don't know if you brothers can see it, but this is the King James Bible, and I don't know if you can see it, but
No, you can see it.
can't really see it.
No.
Okay. But basically, it says the books commonly referred to as the Apocrypha.
Yeah, I see it. Kind of.
First Esdras, Second Esdras, Tobit, additions to Esther, Wisdom of Solomon, Ecclesiasticus, Baruch, Letters of Jeremiah, Prayers of Azariah, Susanna, Bel and the Dragon, Prayer of Manasseh, First Maccabees, Second Maccabees. Right in the Holy Bible, right? Now, when you go to the actual Apocrypha, and actually I might have to get my other one because I don't think I have my index here.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, when you go through the Apocrypha, it's the same books, man. The same books that they're mentioning here, which prove that they're canon. So you got to ask yourself this. Why is the books taken out of the Apocrypha? Well, why is the Apocrypha taken out the Holy Bible? And that's an easy question because, for one thing, it reveals too much truth. Second of all, you have what they call the Biblical Destruction Group, which went around and they took certain points out of the scriptures to kind of throw you off. Because when you go from the book of Malachi, which is the last book in the Old Testament, allegedly, and then it skips all the way to the Gospels, and you have a big piece, at least 500 some plus years of history missing from the Bible because they took the Apocrypha out, man. Okay, so that's what you have to understand, and this is the reason why a lot of Christians, mainly Vocab Malone, they try to debunk the Apocrypha because it pretty much links the puzzle piece, or it bridges the gap between the Israelites and the Gentiles, man. Okay, so if any brother want to start at First Maccabees, man, we just kind of go through it, get a couple of precepts, and go into a brief history of it, just to recap, and we'll take it from there. So whoever want to start reading first, feel free to do so.
I had a quick precept as well. Baba Shah, if I can bring that out. This is the book of Revelation. Salakia. It's the book of Revelation 22, verse 19, and it says, "And if any man shall take away from the words of this prophecy, from this book of this prophecy, Yahweh shall take away part out of the book of life and out of the holy city and from the things which are written in this book." So you can't just remove things out the Bible, but Esau did that, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of.
But yeah, just want to bring that out real quick. Just going into what the brother was saying.
This is First Maccabees chapter 1.
Hold on, brother. Salakia, real quick, just to make the point. I'm Salakia. Just the fact that we read about the apocryphal books in the Bible. This is the apocrypha, all right. And it's the same books we just mentioned. Well, I just mentioned First Esdras, Second Esdras, Tobit, Judith, the rest of Esther, Wisdom of Solomon, Ecclesiasticus, Baruch, all right, and so forth, man. So just to prove that we're not making this shit up. Just like you got it.
Yeah, and look into the book of Esther as well too. That'll be just basically like telling, because Esau basically ripped it out in the middle of a chapter.
It cuts off.
You know, like he didn't even like. I think it's like chapter 10, verse 3, and then he just cut it off, man. And then he put the rest of that same chapter into an apocrypha, man. You know, that's one of the big things that got me into the truth is when I was like, what the, you know, like he really did that shit, bro. Like, because it would have been a lot easier to fool people, make you think it's like the book of Jasher or the book of something else if it was a whole book. But the nigga didn't even bother to, you know, take out the whole book or at least cut it off in a chapter, you know. But
lazy and wickedness.
yeah, kind of. But the Lord left that for us too, though, you know. So we would know. But this is First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1. It says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that reigned in his stead the first over Greece, and made many wars and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth.
Yep, because you got the concept of Diadochi Wars, man. Okay. Now, based on what you just read, now we can go into the history of Alexander the Great. And it says Persia never succeeded in subduing the Greeks, as you just read that he met Darius the Mede. Now, what kingdom was Darius the Mede over?
The Medes, yeah.
That's right. You had the Persians and the Medes. And it says here, but the Arab Greek culture, Alexander of Macedon, eventually brought to the end of the empire of the Persian Empire. It says Alexander was not simply a power-mad despot, but a pupil of the philosopher Aristotle, which he thoroughly convinced that Greek culture was in the one force that could unify the world, going into the whole concept of the New World Order. Now, when you look at everything that's being set up then, even from the time when during the time of Babel, when what's this guy named Nimrod tried to establish a one world government, that same paradigm of establishing a unified government has always been an account of the heathens, man. Okay. And it says here, it says that he thoroughly convinced that Greek culture was the one force that could unify the world. It says in 333 BC, he passed from Macedonia into Asia Minor and defeated the Persian armies stationed there. Then it says he moved southward through Syria and Palestine to Egypt. Tyre and Gaza each offered stubborn resistance, but delays did not discourage Alexander, but they simply strengthened his determination to win. Okay, so like you just read here in the first chapter, in the first couple of verses, it said that he won many strongholds, and this is going into those wars he fought.
Yeah, and Esau has a detailed list of all of those wars that actually happened. How he won, how many men he had, like it's all documented, you know.
Okay.
But it says, verse 3, it says, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive.
Right. Now, when you keep going down here, and then it goes into there was no need for a campaign against the Jews, which were the Israelites, but it says simply the legend makes Alexander a friend of the Jewish people. And they say Jewish, but we know they're talking about Israelites. It says the high priest is said to have come up to meet Alexander, telling him of Daniel's prophecy that the Greek army will be victorious, which that's in Daniel the 8th chapter. And it says, although historians do not take the story seriously, it does illustrate the friendly feelings between the Jews and the Macedonian conqueror. And it's not the fact that he was overly friendly towards Israelites, it's just he had respect unto the sacrifices because he understood the culture to some degree. That's why they say that when he went into the temple, he used to bow down to the high priest. Because basically, if you want to overtake a people, you have to understand their lifestyle. You have to understand what gets them to go off. You have to understand the dynamics of what make a nation run in order to enslave them. Because then the scriptures say, never trust thy enemy. You know, but it says also, it says Alexander permitted the Jews to observe their laws, granted them exemption from tribute during sabbatical years. And when he built Alexandria, Egypt, he encouraged Jews to settle there and gave them privileges comparable to those of his Greek subjects. But Alexander was welcomed into Egypt as a deliverer from Persian oppression, but his victorious armies retraced their steps through Palestine and Syria and moved eastward. It says the cities of Babylonia fell and Persia fell to Alexander, and he pressed on as far as the Punjab region of India. Although mighty in battle, it was a Hellenistic culture rather than Macedonian rule that was Alexander's legacy to the Middle East. Okay, so that's the whole point. They Hellenized everything, and when you go deeper into the history, it tells you how he pretty much encouraged Israelites to pretty much fashion over to Greek culture, and because of the benefits they got from living like the heathen, a lot of Jays just said, "Fuck our culture, man. We just gonna be fucking Greeks from now on." You know,
Right. God. I'm gonna keep going.
yeah, yep.
Verse 7, it says, so Alexander reigned 12 years, and then he died, and his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth.
Yep, and that's when you go into his four generals. I believe you had Ptolemy, you had Seleucid, you had Lacedaemonius, and I believe what was the other one? Antiochus. But I think one of them was interchangeable with the other, with Cassander. Those are his four generals that split up the kingdom after he died, and before then, well, after then, that's when you had a lot of wars among his generals, and there was a lot of infighting because fighting over power and territory. That's why you had the Ptolemies that went up against the Seleucids and ultimately fell to him. Go ahead, bro.
And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and many evils were multiplied in the earth. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes,
Right.
and son of Antiochus the king, who had been hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks.
Right. Now, when you go there, when it goes into Hellenistic Judaism, which we know Judaism is not our culture, that is nothing but Babylonian traditions, witchcraft, and just a bunch of folly. It's not even of the truth. But even when you read it, it says the Hellenistic Judaism, and this goes into the time when they were colonized. It says Hellenistic Judaism was a form of Judaism and classical antiquity. It says that combined the Israelite religion traditions with elements of Greek culture. So when you go in the New Testament and you read about the Gentiles, what part of connecting the dots don't you understand? And this is public information. You can Google this shit, and here's the history, man.
Yeah, kind of. You started using terms like synagogue, things like that, got influenced into our culture, and even a lot of those Pharisees you see in the New Testament, a lot of those they were Hellenistically influenced.
Yeah.
You know, they still believed in the law and stuff, but they were tainted. You know.
Well, because you had a lot of Jakes that was Epicureans, and then you had a lot of them that was what's the other one? You had Stoics and Epicureans, right?
Yeah,
Yep. And I believe the Stoics was more like us, like we were more hell bent on a tradition, on the way things are, versus Epicureans is more like this modern day culture with the Pride movement, with that philosophy, and merging different belief systems into one.
Yeah,
You know?
you got to think too. Like Athens was like the king of philosophy. Like Aristotle, which tutored Alexander. He's one of the most well-known philosophers in the history of the world. And he's so well known. Like everybody just like knows about him. So philosophy was a big thing. Like in Athens, it was basically like a big Sarnetta group down there, where a bunch of people have different philosophies. They were Epicureans would debate. Stoics would debate.
Well, that's Acts 24.
Heathenism would debate. Nihilists, they would all debate.
Yep.
And there'd just be a bunch of, and Jake would come in. Jake think he knows shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the reasons why Paul had to go and write and undo a lot of that, because Jake got a little knowledge, but it wasn't the knowledge.
I got scripture.
Well, that's why he wrote to the unknown God. When you go into Acts 24th chapter, he wrote into the unknown God because you had Jakes there that believed in the concept of a Most High, but they didn't really fully understand the element of the Lord because they was under those particular philosophies, man. But go ahead, brother.
This is Proverbs chapter 12, verse 26. It says, the righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth them. And this is an example of what happens, especially in the book of Maccabees, because our people are inclined to go off anyways to begin with just by solid nature. So when they get cultures imposed on them by force, as it's gonna go in this first Maccabees, some Jakes willingly sign up, but some Jakes have to are rebellious unto death, and then there's that select group of men that will fight against the ways of the wicked, as you'll see.
Well, hey, that's a beautiful point because, hey, reading here, it says, although, matter of fact, it says he determined to find a new city in each country of his empire, which would serve as a model of the reordering of the life of the country as a whole along Greek lines. It says, materially speaking, this meant the erection of fine public buildings, gymnasium for games, which you're seeing now, basketball games. It says an open air theater and whatever would approximate a life of Greek city states. It says individuals were encouraged to take Greek names, adopt Greek dress and language, in short, to become Hellenized. But the material aspects of Hellenism must have seemed attractive for large segments of the population. It says trade and commerce brought wealth to new merchant classes. Libraries and schools also welcomed by the scholar. Better housing and better food brought about the rise of the standard of living. And many in Israel, as elsewhere, were glad to accept the veneer of Greek culture.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, is that out the study Bible? You reading that
Yes,
from?
sir.
The water.
And it says here, if idolatry had been a stumbling block to Israel in the pre-Exilic period, Hellenism was a great post-Exilic temptation. Okay, so Jake was tempted to follow the Greeks, man. This is the reason why you have Gentiles. This is the reason why Paul went to those various churches in Asia Minor, okay, down in different parts of the world. Paul went to these different Israelites, to these different churches in Ephesus, Asia Minor, the Thessalonians, man, the Romans, okay, the Hebrews. That's why Paul was sent to these different churches, because he knew that they were Israelites and he understood the history. Being a Roman citizen, you have to understand Greek culture, because Greek culture Romans is an extension of the Greek culture. That's all it is.
And I had a blue letter on the word Gentile too, if I can bring that out, Baba Kashaf. So this is the word Gentile in the blue letter, and it comes from the Greek word is ethnos. All right, and it says here, a multitude, whether of men or beasts, associated or living together, a company, troop, or swarm. But right here, it says in line 3, a tribe, nation, a people, a group. Okay, so what type of tribe are you talking about? It says a race of the same habit, tribe. All right, and then it also goes into non-Jewish or implication of pagan, nation of people. So just because you hear the word Gentile, what these Christians think, that just means anybody that's not an Israelite. No, in certain parts of the scriptures, it's still referring to people that are of a certain tribe. What tribe could they be talking about? The 12 tribes of Israel. So in this case, what we're reading about when this says go into the Gentiles, it's talking about going to the Israelites that as an insult are referred to as Gentiles. Why? Because they're not following the law, statutes, commandments. They're basically trying to count themselves as being heathen. They're taking on all the customs that the brothers bringing out this history of being Hellenized. And that's what you people got to understand, the difference, and learn about Hellenization. It's the same thing here in America. You're Americanized. Here in America, you call yourself an American. That's not a fucking race.
Mhm.
You know, so what's your real nationality? You got to know that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And honestly, it's the same thing today, man. Well, like Esau, he gets you with that language, you know. Like once you learn Greek, he makes everything so convenient for you. Like that's why today is English in any third world country. If
You
you
gotta
could
learn
speak
English.
English, man, you make way more money. You know,
Right.
it's way easier to get in. It's way easier to get jobs. You can get a coding job. You just gotta speak English and deal with the U.S. dollar. You know.
Well, that's why, like, when you go to these abroad colleges, like, they major is English. If you come to the United States, you have to know that. Like, if you want to work for the international aeronautics, like you want to fly planes, commercial airlines, you have to learn English. You have to understand English. You can't speak Swahili or any language from your foreign or native country in order to drive an American airline or any commercial airline. You have to learn English.
Yeah. Con.
You know.
Con.
Another way to put it too, in the perspective, what if you had other brothers say, "Hey, go over there to the American and preach unto them the gospel." You know, we're not saying that all Americans can get it, but which Americans are we going unto to teach? Jake, the Israelites, man.
Right.
Mhm.
So that's an
Con.
easy way to put it for you people that can't fucking get it or confused about that when it's talking about going to the Gentiles and teach them and bringing the Gentiles. There's different classification of Gentiles, not talking about the heathen. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, the next verse going to it. Finish reading, brother. Verses 11.
Con. Verse 11. It says, "In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow."
Now, what does covenant mean?
An agreement, a contract, you know. And that's you always gonna have Jakes like that, man. He's gonna walk in, he's gonna see the big statue of Zeus and be like, wow, you know. He's gonna see gymnasiums and it just always was a group of Israelites that it just didn't take much for them to just abandon the law and go follow the heathen, you know.
But that's why it says many in Israel, as elsewhere, were glad to accept the veneer of Greek culture. Jake willingly went into it. When Alexander was presenting it to him, Jake willingly did it because he came with a friendly approach. Okay, he showed them mercy during the sabbatical years. He didn't tax them. You know what I'm saying? And he bowed down to the Jewish priest, not the Jewish Salakia, the Israelite priest. We got to get out of that mindset. See, in this history, they like to put Jewish shit in there, man.
Right.
The Israelites wasn't Jewish, man. Okay, Jew just a short term for the word Jew or Judah, which Yahweh, which means the Lord think or the Most High thinks. It's a tribe.
Mm-hmm.
All tribes, all 12 tribes of Israel didn't call themselves JEWS or JOOs. For all you Israelites or you Christians out there that seem to think that all 12 tribes were just Jews. No, man. Jews are just one tribe. What about the other 11 tribes? And to be technically honest, you got Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, which makes up the house of Judah, which was called periodically the Jews, which was really a byword to some degree.
Mm-hmm. This,
No?
this is like the time period where all that started too.
Yep.
Remember, you had a bunch of Edomites that were subjected to the Hasmonean dynasty
Mm-hmm.
that had to convert.
Where it goes into it as well.
Uh, uh, verse 12, it says, "So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen." Wow. It says, "Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief."
And that's the spirit of brother Yanagai Israel Benjamin. I was actually looking for that precept, the water brother. He hit it right on time. And backing up that history, this is another historical point. It reads here, says, in recent times, under the foreign rule of the Persians, then of the Macedonians, by whom the Persian Empire was overthrown, intermingling with other races, has led to many of the traditional Israelites' ordinance losing their hold, meaning they stopped keeping the law, statutes, and commandments They stopped keeping the commandments. They stopped calling on the name of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and they started converting over to heathenism. All right, and it says that many Jews took Greek names, adopted a school of Greek philosophy, and tried to combine the wisdom of Greece with the faith of their fathers, man. Woo!
Mm.
Get around that.
Yep.
God. Look
And
at
now,
what they do today, man. And when you go to college, they got these fraternities and shit like that, man. Why they got to call on Kappa, Psi, Alpha, and all this other shit? You know, Jake don't question what's the purpose of them putting all that in there for. You know, even gymnasiums. You know, when you're reading the account of when they did that back then, the gyms, people went in there just butt ass naked. You know, went in the fucking pool rooms, took baths together and shit. You know, wrestled ass naked. All this wickedness, man. And today
yeah,
it's the same shit. Same shit. You go to the locker room, you a bunch of fucking naked ass men in there. Women going there, a bunch of naked ass women and shit like that, man.
yeah.
Totally a
Scripture.
sight to see.
All right.
The
God.
Olympics, they started the Olympics back in that time too. You know, the Greeks basically started the nationwide competition of athleticism. Everybody got in gyms and all of that bullshit and competed. You know.
This precept, this is Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 13. It says, "For my people have committed two evils." It said, "They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water."
Mm.
Yeah.
But one thing about Jake is that they always try to look for the next new thing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the next most popular thing, the next deepest thing. But and essentially to have everlasting life, all you got to do is stick with the original way. That's why the scriptures say, "Seek the old paths."
Right. Kai. Beautiful. Hey, keep reading. And like I got another point on that, but it's gonna tie right into what you're saying because the next piece of history goes right over to the Seleucids. Because when you
Mm-hmm.
get to Maccabees, like where we at now we in the reign of the Seleucid dynasty, which was spearheaded by Antiochus the Fourth, man. So
Time.
go ahead, bro.
Verse 16, it says, "Now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion over two realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen, and a great navy."
Now the precept to that I believe is Daniel the 11th chapter, if I'm not mistaken, when it goes into the war of the king of the south and the king of the north. That goes into the Ptolemy and the Seleucid dynasty going to war. The Esau broke it down wrong. Like when you go into like the Christians and those that's like occupied with eschatology, which is the study of the end time, they believe that's talking about Christians and Muslims and shit like that. But no, this is actually all history.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we're going into it now, and this is why the Apocrypha is very essential to have because it helps you to understand what's written in Daniel. It helps you to understand what's written in the book of Romans. It's written in the book of Ephesians. Okay, the book of Thessalonians. It helps you to understand the history.
Right.
Go ahead.
It says, verse 18, it says, "And made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude."
Right now, when you go into the Seleucids, it say the Syrian rulers are termed Seleucids because of their kingdom of one successor states to Alexander's empire, which was of his four generals. And it says here, Alexander's empire was founded by Seleucus the first, which his name was Nicator. Then it goes, it says, most of the early rulers bore the name of Seleucus or Antiochus, and they ruled from Antioch on the Orontes River. But it says the energetic ruler of Antiochus III, surnamed the Great, waged a series of battles with Egypt until 199 BC. Now, those dates are kind of like finicky because Esau comes up with dates and he mark them according to his calendar, but who really knows when the dates took place? But for scholars' sake, they put like particular dates in there. But it says he wrestled Palestine from the Ptolemies, and after the battle of Penion, near the sources of the Jordan River. But it says this marked the beginning of the new era of the Israelite history, For while the Ptolemies had been tolerant of Israelite institutions, the Seleucids determined to enforce Hellenism on the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Yep. And when you read all of this, man, it makes total sense why, like, they took it out. You know, when you put that in the context of the New Testament, you know, it makes complete and total sense. Why the Lord came back? Why is there all this division? Why He's got to send people throughout Europe? You know.
Another quick
You got a
precept.
precept. Go ahead, brother. Bring it out.
This is the book of Jeremiah 10, verse 2. It says, Thus saith Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. So that's where our people start falling, as they started learning the way of all the Greeks, man, all them Edomites, all their ways, you know. And it's the same thing, same shit, different toilet here in America. People want to learn of all the American ways, follow all this bullshit, you know, put on a suit and tie, you know, go to the gyms and all this other stuff, man, that we're not supposed to be doing when you're supposed to be following law, statutes, commandments, and then you get jacked up for it.
Well, because it was a form of gradualism, like with Alexander, like he gradually enforced the heathenistic or the Hellenism period. So over a period of time, by him conquering and ruling the world at that time, he had the resources to set this shit up. So, like say, power subdued all things. So when you look at Esau, Edom today, he has the power, he has the wealth, he has the ability to create narratives, okay, to create power. So when people see that, that's the way that's currently working for them. So they're gonna automatically gravitate towards that because the
Right.
law, statutes, and commandments is not being pushed forth in the earth. It has no power to Jake. So when Jake see it getting a Fortune 500 job, you can make 250,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? You can drive a nice vehicle. You can live in a loft downtown Chicago. That's the way to them, you see, because it's readily accessible. And this is the way to obtain a more profitable lifestyle versus keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, which in their mindset, God doesn't even exist anymore. That's the old way. We graduated from that way. Let's live this way. You see, this is why the men of the Lord are bringing back the ancient way. The scriptures say, seek the old paths, man. And this is why we're out here to declare our people, no, this is not the way. This is the way, walk ye in it. Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai is the name of the Lord. America's going to be destroyed. We have a better kingdom at hand. Okay? Precept real quick. Matthew 10 and 5. It says, these 12 Yahweh Shai sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles and into any of the city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as ye go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Okay. And this is our job, to go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and which proved that they was Hellenized at this time, because when we go out to the highways and the byways, Jake ain't knowing that they're Israelites, man. They're calling themselves black people, Puerto Ricans, Hispanics, okay? And they're living the American lifestyle, which is another form of Hellenization. So when Yahweh Shai made that statement, the Hellenization had already took place hundreds of years prior. You see?
That's right.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yep.
This is verse 19. It says, thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof, and the table of showbread and the pouring vessels and the vials and the censers of gold and the veil and the crown and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also, he took the hidden treasures which he found.
All right, now Baba Kushah, Salakia, hold that. Somebody give me Joel the 3rd chapter when it says that he carried his goodly pleasant things. Joel the 3rd. It may be like 3 and 5, if I'm not mistaken. And also, I'm going to where it says Hellenistic rulers of Judea. It says under this certainly of the Ptolemaic kingdom and the latter Seleucid empire, Judea witnessed a period of peace and protection of its institutions. It says, for their aids against the Ptolemaic enemies, Antiochus III the Great promised his Israelite subjects a reduction in taxes and funds to repair the city of Jerusalem and the second temple. But relations deteriorated under Antiochus' successor, which is Seleucus IV, which is Philopator, and then for reasons not fully understood. But his successor, Antiochus IV Epiphanes, drastically overturned the previous policy of respect and protection, banning any Israelite religious rites and traditions in Judea. Although not among the diaspora, which that's false because for one thing, Jake had already been dispersed. But it says, in sparking a traditionalist revolt against Greek rule. But out of this revolt was formed an independent Israelite kingdom known as the Hasmonean Kingdom, which lasted from 141 BCE to 63 BCE. Okay, it says the Hasmonean dynasty eventually disintegrated due to civil war. Okay, which goes into the Hasmonean Civil War, which was basically what you was reading when you went up. And it says that particular date when it says that he reigned. I believe it was I lost the place.
It was verse 20.
20 when it says no, it gave a particular date when it says like in the 143rd year. No, it says in the 70, it says the 70th year of the kingdom of the Greek. It says 137 years of the kingdom of the Greek. Con. And then it mentioned it here too. It says 141 BCE, which is pretty much roughly around the same time frame.
Yeah, con.
But if you got that, Joel, you can bring it out.
Yeah, I got it. Let me start at verse 1.
Get to the point. No, just start at the point. Go straight to the point.
This is the book of Joel 3, verse 5. It says, because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. And it says, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians,
right?
That ye might remove them from far from their border.
Hey, didn't that happen during the Hellenization period? Because at that time, Jake was already dispersed anyway. We was already scattered abroad. So, but that Grecians is talking about the Edomites, man. The so-called white man vocab. The Idumeans, the Edomites, the devil, the white boy, the red man, Satan.
Yeah. Oh, man. Right.
But you can finish, brother.
This is First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 24. It says, and when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly. Therefore there was a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were, so that the princes and the elders mourned, the virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of the women was changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion.
Right, because for one thing, you had, like we read earlier, have the Israelites fought to stay under the law, statutes, and commandments, but you had other Jakes that consulted with the heathen, but yet they wanted to mix Israelite culture with Greek culture. But the Lord said he's not the author of confusion. So you either choose one. The Lord said, hey, you can't serve two masters because you're going to love one and despise the other. But Greek culture was more of a convenience for Jake because they wasn't bound by any particular gods, but they was bound by mortal men on the earth, which Jake, they supplant you, man. You know, but with the Most High, Jake knew that the Most High was omnipotent. You couldn't hide anything from the Lord. So therefore, that was more oppressive to them. But what, we can't commit adultery. We can't smoke our bullshit. We can't fault worship other gods, man, because the Lord is going to bring judgment upon us. But this is the reason why the Lord ultimately brought us down, because of this particular dealings with the heathens, man. But you dumbass Christians out there, because this is an extra point. It says there's neither Jew nor Greek, which is in quotation. It says ethnic, cultural, philosophical, and social tensions within the Hellenistic Israelite world were partly overcome by the emergence of a new, typically Antiochian Middle Eastern Greek doctrine, either by established native Hellenization Sicilian Western Syrian Israelites, themselves descendants of Babylonian Israelites, migrants who have long adopted various elements of Greek culture and civilization while retaining a generally conservative, strict attachment, man. Okay? Heathen, classical Greeks, Macedonian Greeks, and Greco-Syrian Gentiles, or the local native descendants of Greek or Greco-Syrian converts to mainstream Judaism, because you had a lot of those heathens as well that try to convert over to Israelite or to being a custom of Israelite culture. Okay, it wasn't fucking Judaism. Okay, Judaism is a new found term. That's not what that was not our religion, Judaism. Okay, it says known as proselytes, which they kind of go off there, but Greek-speaking Israelites born of mixed marriages. So they break it down and straight up tell you that the ones that they call Greeks in the New Testament are indeed Israelites, man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, vocab, a question to you. If you so study and you so believe in the Holy Bible, I know you looked this information up, but you wasn't able to formulate a definitive reason within your mind because you're not led by the spirit of Yahweh Bashimi Hawashai, man.
Mm-hmm.
You're not led by that. You led by your own belly because you're trying to incorporate yourself within this doctrine, but this has no place for you. Because according to Psalms 50 and 16, the scriptures clearly tells us that the heathen, what have you done to take my covenant in thy mouth, man? Roughly paraphrasing it. So you have no dealings with the word of the Most High. So you can't incorporate your philosophies in this because you're missing the main point, which is the Apocrypha and the history of the Hellenization period. Just Google it, man. It pops up.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Go ahead, bro.
This is First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 29. It says, after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city, and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire, and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive, and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall, with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. They stored it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare. For it was all a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel.
So you seeing how Jake's decision is backfiring on him. Because earlier in the chapter, you have wicked men out of Israel that consented to these things, that wanted to do these things, that wanted to live this lifestyle and wanted to make covenants with these people and build trust. But now you seeing that the intentions of these evil people, being the Greeks, more specifically the Edomites at this time, they being truly revealed. And that's what we always tell Jake, even today in America. It's like, yeah, this man giving you stimmies, this man giving you food stamps, Section 8 housing, but at the end of the day, there's always a wicked underlying intention. And this is what's being showed during that time, and we're gonna see the wicked intentions being showed during the time of the, Jacob's trouble again. It's just this same thing happening all over again.
Right, with the MOTB, because that MOTB is gonna be that sales pitch that they're gonna get Jake, man. That's gonna be the sales pitch, and that MOTB is really set up for Jake, because you notice that Alexander, when he came to Jake, he was more peaceable among them and even gave them breaks. He did that because, for one thing, Alexander studied our culture. He understood that keeping the law, statutes, and commandments kept us in tune with our power. And understanding how meticulous Israelites were, he just couldn't come with that, I'm gonna put the sword in. He had to be very deceptive with it for Jake to let the guard down so he can force them into that. It's not that Alexander really gave a shit about the Israelites. It just he understood the history and he studied it. You see what I'm saying? So it's the same pitch with the mark of the beast. think about it this way. Yeah, Esau is going to incorporate his own people into that, but mainly that is contingent on the salvation of Israelites, man. Because Esau knows that there's no salvation for him or the other nations. He knows that the true people of the Lord, he has them in captivity, but he has to sell this system or this idolatry to Jake. And he's going to do it by any way means, any way possible. Same thing with fucking the JB. Hey, he was promising niggas fucking Big Macs, man. Big Macs, order fries, ice cream. I'll give you a $20 gift certificate. Just straight up, just straight up, just folly, man. Yeah. You know?
That's right.
And he's selling it the same way again because he knows the people of the Most High he have right here in America, man, for the most part. He knows this.
Yeah.
And this is his last hoorah.
Yeah,
Right?
quick scripture, Sirach 12, verse 16. The enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit.
Go up
He
to
will
10,
peep
bro.
with his eyes.
Go up to 10. Read 10.
This is Sirach 12, verse 10. Never trust thy enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness.
Yep.
Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou had wiped the looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust has not altogether wiped away.
Yeah,
Right.
be
So when
aware,
you look
be
at the
aware of it.
history of, go ahead. You said what, bro?
Slovakia. I was gonna say, yeah, the scripture said, beware of him. Beware of him, man. The way these damn devils do, and even in your personal lives, they'll smile on your face. You got to watch an Edomite that be coming with you with constant gifts. The scriptures does say, the Lord even make our enemies to be at peace with us, but that goes to a certain limit, to a certain extent. When you got a devil constantly trying to give you shit, trying to become buddy buddy with you, we got to remember to take heed to the warnings. Like you read in verse 10, never trust thy enemy. Like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Rust doesn't just come straight out immediately. It takes time for rust to develop, but eventually rust will come. It's inevitable. So you got to know that when you're dealing with these damn Edomites, man.
Well, we saw that with the Seleucids. We saw that because eventually the protection order they had in place, eventually that was done away with, man. Okay, because like when it says though he humbled himself, take good heed of him, because Alexander he humbled himself before the Israelite priest. Okay, I believe you had Jason the high priest, you had Onias the high priest. He humbled himself before great men to pretty much get in. He pretty much incorporated himself within the tradition. So with that being said, Jake like, okay, this guy he ain't half bad. We could kind of trust him, but see, Jake forgot the concept of not trusting a so-called white man, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It
the simple
backfired
mistake he
immediately.
made. Yep.
Say, as soon as they went to make a covenant with the heathen, like, oh, this ain't that bad. One of the worst of the heathen showed up and showed them it was that bad.
The men showed up. Alexander was the dude. That's why they always say civilization started the Greeks. This is why they hold him on a pedestal, because this cracker, this devil, he takes pride in the history of his culture. They take pride in that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Con.
You got it, brother.
It says, Salakia.
Yeah, you was in verses. Yep, you started at verses. You stopped at. Matter of fact. Yep, you stopped at verse 30,
31?
34. Yep. Matter of fact, started 31. That's a good one.
31. Okay, Con. It says, and when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great strong wall with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. They stored it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness, her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning.
Right? Because now, like the next chapter, when it goes into it, says the crisis during the reign of Antiochus IV, surnamed Epiphanes, who found allies in a Hellenistic party of Judea, which we already went over that. It says, in the early days of the reign of Antiochus, Jerusalem was ruled by the high priest Onias III. It says, a descendant of Simon the Just and a strictly orthodox. Well, that's bullshit. That orthodox, that's bullshit, man. All right. It says the Jews who looked with favor on Greek culture opposed Onias and espoused the cause of his brother Jason. By promising large tribute to Antiochus, Jason succeeded in having himself appointed high priest. Niggas taking bribes as usual. It says, although Antiochus looked upon the high priesthood as a political office, which he had a right to fill as he pleased, pious Israelites thought of the priesthood as a divine or origin and considered its sale to the highest bidder a sin against the Most High. But Jason encouraged the Hellenists who had sought his election. A gymnasium was built in Jerusalem. Greek names were commonplace. Hebrew was considered obscuranted and obsolete, meaning that our culture was basically like they threw it away. They're like, fuck this shit. But even then, throwing away their power and coming away from the Yahweh Shem Yahushai, that's when Esau Edom decided to follow on Israelites, man. Because once we gave up on the Lord, that's it. When the Lord turns his back on you, then what does he do? He has a history of it. We turn our back on Yahweh Shem Yahushai, then all of a sudden the heathen, they come and they overtook us. But Jake, in many ways, bought this shit upon themselves, man.
If I can
Because
add this, it's like,
nah, you got it.
well, I was just gonna say, if I can add, this shows you that this is the same devil we dealing with, because the same thing is happening now when it comes to world politics. Because when this man, wants to occupy a nation, okay, he may not do a full invasion, but he's gonna set up proxy leaders that go along with your agenda. That's why you have a lot of leftists, as you'll say, leftist leaders in South America, places like that, Central America, because United States be setting these dudes up to go along with their ultimate agenda.
Right. Well, shit, man, it even gets better because it says he was determined to remove all traces of the Israelite faith. It says the Israelites' God was identified with Jupiter, and a bearded image of the pagan deity, perhaps in the likeness of Antiochus, was erected on a temple altar where swine was offered in sacrifice, man.
Yeah, man,
Another
I tried
concept of white
to
Jesus.
I tried to actually like imagine the state of the temple at that time, man. Like it had to be like horrific, man. Like a scene out of like Diablo. Because
Yeah.
think about it, not only did he clean out everything, like all of the gold, anything that made it look fresh, he cleaned all of it out. And then he killed a bunch of Israelites around it, man. Had dead bodies, blood everywhere. Then he put up statues. Bro, he literally just did a number on the temple, bro. It probably looked demonic as hell, you know?
Well, they was erecting statues. I mean, they had orgies, all types of adultery. You know what I'm saying? Jake wasn't, the women wasn't covering their fucking heads no more. They was dealing with other men. It got pretty gruesome, man. But I want to bring some of this these precepts out on the comment board. Brothers been kind of lighting it up. And shalom to you, Akim Akwathium, Yahabashim Al Shai Bashim Kakadat, brother. Some to you brothers, man. This is the book of 1 Corinthians 12:2 from the brother Bayan Yasharala. It says, ye know that you were Gentiles carried away into these dumb idols, even as you were led. Okay, and we going into how the fact Jake was led into these dumb idols by giving their allegiance to Alexander, and then Antiochus, forcing that lifestyle upon them through bloodshed. Okay, and this is why Apostle Paul had to come to these Israelites, or the descendants of those Hellenized Israelites, because just like in America, when you grow up keeping Christmas or Halloween 4 generations ago, that tradition has been passed down to us today. Okay, we've been keeping birthdays, Christmas, Halloween, New Year's Eve, all that wickedness, and to the point the Lord rested upon the apostles of Great Millstone, and they came about, and we got this truth, man. Same thing with Paul. It's the same thing today.
And even some Jakes, they want to hold on to that so much, even when the truth is presented in front of them.
Yeah.
That's why Timothy's dad, he wanted to be a Greek, even
Yeah,
though,
Yeah,
they was preaching him like, yo, you an Israelite. Even his mom believed he was Israelite, but he was so enchanted. He was like, man, nah, fuck that. I'm a Greek, nigga.
yeah,
right.
because I believe his mother name was Eunice, wasn't it? I think it was Eunice.
I'm not sure
I
off the
think
top of my
I think
head,
it was
but I
I
know
think it
she
was Eunice.
believes he's an Israelite
But she believed in the faith, but his father was a Greek. He wasn't a Greek by blood, but he was of the Hellenization period. He
by
believed in
tradition.
the philosophy,
Uh,
a traditional, yeah.
hmm
Because
You
the
got niggas
brother,
like that too, man. Like I'm not an Israelite, I'm American. You know, niggas like that don't realize that these are empires where you have citizenship, man. These are not ethnicities. There's no inheritance. There's no birthrights. You know, you pay taxes and hope you get something back out of it, man.
yeah.
You know,
Because all taxes is usually in tributary. That's all it is.
yeah. That's why
Paying
Esau
tribute.
set up citizenship, man, because there's no inheritance in being a citizen of anything. You know, you just pay taxes and pray Esau don't roll on you.
Yeah,
you know, but yeah, you had guys, that are like that, man. They forsake their own people and adopt some other nonsense. You know, like we're not black. Nigga wouldn't think he's not black just to say he's an American. You know, it's like he comes out of one hole of darkness just to go into another. You know.
okay. Well, hey, Second Maccabees 4:7. The brother Yanagai Israel Benjamin 144. And it says here, but after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus, called Epiphanes, took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be the high priest. And we just read about that historical account, which shows you Esau knows, man. Come on, Vocal, where you at, man? It says, promising unto the king by intercession 303 score talents of silver, and of another revenue 80 talents. Besides this, he promised to assign 150 more if he might have license to set him up a place of exercise, and for training up youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians, man. Okay, sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Look at the NBA draft. Hey, what we just have here like 2 months ago, brother. We had the NFL draft in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah, kind of.
How many Jakes was engrafted and incorporated into that shit?
Probably everyone, man.
Yeah. So basically, Antiochus, same thing, Americans, man, because America is named after a so-called white man. It's basically a corporation because that was pretty much a business structure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it says, which the king had granted, and he had gotten into his hand the rule of forthwith, brought by his own nature to Greekish fashion. This is why Jake wear fitted hats and shit. They wear jerseys, wear Jordans. Which I mean, none of this is our culture, but nonetheless, Jake wear the Helen, the Greek customs. The
Mm-hmm.
vehicles you drive, the Chevy, the fucking bow tie, the Range Rovers, all that shit. It's all fucking fashion out the Greeks, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like the god of Nike, I believe the god of Nike goes into what like strength or something, if I'm not mistaken.
Victory.
Victory, con.
Yeah.
And I believe it was like an emblem, like a wing or some shit, and it was like shaped like a Nike sign. That's where they get the Nike sign from, victory.
Oh yeah, kind of.
But it says, and the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John, the father of Epidemius, who went ambassador to Rome for enmity and aid, and he took away the putting down the governments which were according to the law, and he brought up new customs against the law. It says, for he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat. So here we go, man. We Hellenization all over again, man. Same shit. And it makes sense because these are the same rulers, Edomites. Like
Mm-hmm.
they said, the elites, it's not that they're wise, they have a certain formula that they use. And niggas
Yeah.
are dumb enough to fall for it every time.
Yeah. Well, if he been running the same play for 2,000 years, he should be good at it this time. He don't switch up plays at all, man.
Nah, it's the
Like
same
you
shit.
you read this chapter, this is like the exact MO that he's doing today, man. Like, he did the same thing with under Rome, you know.
Come,
Yeah.
come. Con, man. But hey, man, I feel like through the spirit, man, we should probably make a part two to this for real. Like, I mean, there's so much more history to cover. It's like a whole lot of history, man. And I feel like through the spirit, Jake get it, and like fucking Vocab Malone. I mean, this is plain as day. We basically went through a whole breakdown of the first, 34, 35 verses on how Israelites became Hellenists. And if you Christians out there can't see that the Hellen or the Gentiles of the New Testament are Israelites, then you just fucking blind willingly. And the Most High is just gonna destroy your ass, man. Because you're willingly ignorant. Okay, Galatians 3 and 28. It says there's neither Jew nor Greek, there's neither bond nor free, there's neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, man. Why did it say that? Because the Israelites and the Greeks are the same people, man. Same thing. Okay.
Con, yeah, it's basically saying, you're none of these titles that you guys are pinning yourselves to be. That's the manner in which he's speaking. You're not a fucking black man, right? You're not a Puerto Rican. You're not a Mexican. You're neither Jew nor Greek. You're an Israelite. Okay, we're all one of you. How about Shem Shai? Remember who you are. Come back to that heritage, and stop all the bullshit, man.
Right. God. Well, first Maccabees 1 and 41, it says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. Okay, this is the same sentiment that Biden and that fucking George Bush, he said a new world order. This is the same concept. These are the same men coming back today in the reincarnation, which Christians don't believe in that. When clearly Yahweh Shai, and when he was asking the disciples, who do they think he was? Some say he was Jeremiah, some thought he was Elijah, some thought he was, different men of the ancient world, which proves that they understood reincarnation. So these are the same men coming back today. But it says, and everyone shall leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. And yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. Okay, which they became Gentiles. They said, fuck Yahweh Shem Shai. We have no preeminence. They're fucking with us at gunpoint. What do we do? Because these niggas didn't have faith anyway. That's why they gave over to it. Because Jake needed an excuse to depart from the law, statutes, and commandments of the Lord, man. To be wicked. Same thing today. And in truth, you got niggas that's rapping. You got niggas that's promoting weed, blunts. Niggas saying you can fuck somebody up the ass. They need certain excuses in order to incorporate into their faith because they want to be wicked anyway. And it says, for the king has sent letters by messengers into Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they shall follow strange laws of the land and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings, which drink offerings goes into libations, in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and the festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and the holy people, and set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they shall also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, man. Shit.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. Esau wanted to humiliate us, man. He didn't just want to fuck us up physically. He wanted to humiliate us, get us away from our power. He wanted us to be clowning on each other before he took us down.
Well, they got that saying, Nino Brown, Esau, man, if I go down, everybody's going. This is all a fight over the birthright, bro. This is all a fight over the birthright, man. Okay, this is all because Esau, Edom, we understand it, the account of Genesis, the 25th chapter, when basically Esau sold his birthright, he was supplanted of it, but it was through the spirit. Okay, this is all going back from day one. It's not about black or white, it's about the birthright. So basically Esau was like, well, since I can't have it, you niggas ain't gonna get it too. I'm gonna make it work for it. That's why the times we're living in now, bro, getting into these stories about Maccabees and the faith and about the three holy children and the lion's den. This is good to get this in your mindset because we're coming into the time now that they're getting ready to enforce this new world order on us, man. And it ain't gonna be, oh well, here goes the MOTB, here you go. They're gonna force this shit at gunpoint. Eventually. You see what they did with the jab, man. You see what happened to Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
He said he didn't want to take it, but he felt bullied into taking it. Even T-Boss from TLC, she said she felt pressured into taking that, what, because of her career. She said she didn't want to take it, but she said after she took it, she haven't felt the same ever since then.
Damn.
So there we go. So that shows you how things are getting ready to transpire. And when they set up this new system, yeah, it may be so-called optional at first, but eventually when Jake is not bowing down to that shit, he gonna come with them guns, man. Oh, you gotta take this. It's deeper than, oh well, we just gonna cut off your MOTB and leave you out. No, man, they gonna come with the gun. They gonna use this. This is gonna be through military action, man. It's too easy to say, nah, I'm not gonna accept the MOTB. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden you just become a bum living under a bridge. No, that's too easy. Fuck that, nah, nigga. I gotta threaten you a little bit. You gonna work for this salvation.
Yeah, kind.
You know. So yeah, man. But I mean, any brothers got any other precepts, man? I mean, I know we didn't go through the whole chapter. That's like a whole different lesson. But we pretty much covered the thick meat of it all, going into the history to some point. So if you brothers got any more precepts, let them fly, man. If not, then you can close us out, Yabasab.
I got one more. It's book of Psalms 55, verse 21. It says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. So of course Alexander came and he was all nice to the Israelites and shit. Let them do what they want to do. That wasn't a plan, an agenda, like you were breaking down. Ultimately gain the trust of certain people to go kill him, and that's Esau's MO, man. He's always operated that way from the beginning, man. He'll smile in your face, offer you a bunch of shit, but really this nigga's got something planned that he wants to do. So it's better to just not trust them at all. Don't even fucking involve with them. Don't be buddy with these motherfuckers, man. Don't go to their crib, kicking it with them. Don't invite them in your home. Because everything you see what they did to our temple, you got to put it in perspective. Let it put a so-called white man in your home. Your boys with them. All of a sudden, next thing you know, your whole house is taken over, and they in there to turn it to a whole fucking meth lab and shit. Prostitution going on. That's what this devil did to us, man. And that's what he'll do if you let him.
I got a comment to that, man. I'm just talking shit. Hey, pop they women and keep it moving.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they can take that.
Fuck with y'all, man. Get y'all the white cow. Get you a crave case going, man. Fuck it, man.
Right.
Fuck that American cheese, man. Get that that spicy. What's that cheese, man? That spicy shit they got, man. Get that, man.
Pepper
Get
jack.
that pepper jack joint, man. Get you some spice to your castle, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And y'all both got any other precepts?
I was gonna read this Daniel 8:25 real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Which is the book of Daniel, chapter 8, verse 25. Basically, the precept to the point we went over. It says, "And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many." So that goes back into not trusting your enemy. That he's going to be a guy that's going to seem trustworthy, but at the end of the day, he's not going to be. As a matter of fact, peace is something that he's able to weaponize. Like he has something called diplomacy, which sounds peaceful on the front end of it, but by the end of it, you're on the back end of it. You're paying him tribute. You can't move your own military and all that other bullshit, And then it says he also shall stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. So that's twofold in the sense that the Lord is going to stand up for us, man. When that same wicked root comes back up, which he has today,
Yeah.
Everybody that did anything in the past, all right, that the 7 sons and the Maccabees, all of those guys got to get judged today, man.
And remember how Antiochus went out. You know what I'm saying? Remember how the Lord smote his ass with a disease in his bowels, man.
Yeah.
It was so bad. He stinks so bad to the point his own people, his own generals didn't want to be around him.
Yeah.
So
that's all I had, brothers.
Yeah, so kind, man. But anyway, with that, man, we're gonna close out, giving all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Blessings and salutations to the whole elect. Noah's in the gospel of broad, lifting up the stand of Yahweh, Shemi Shai, wherever they may be. Lord's will you were edified, man, until the next lesson. Shalom and above.
Shalom.